Ecclesiastes says in chapter 3, verse 1 says, there's a time for every activity under the sun. That phrase just makes my head reel because I feel like there's a time to shove every activity under the sun into every day. I'm sure that you as a mom can identify with that some days you just feel like you're trying to cram everything possible into one day or into one afternoon or into one weekend. Just jam it all, just squeeze it real tight and jam it all down in there. And what does that do to us as moms and as wives and as women, as humans, but leave us spent, exhausted, and reticent to get up again and try it the next day. It really honestly sets us up for a big old case of failure because it's impossible. You know, Solomon says there's a time for everything under the sun. He doesn't say we should shove everything we can into as little a space of time as possible. This length on the time continuum should be just jam-packed full. And sometimes I think that we do that to our own misfortune, to our own frustration, to our own detriment, to our family's detriment, to the detriment of our marriage. And I think maybe let's take a minute to study what the scripture has to say about rest in the next few minutes. So my mind is immediately drawn to Matthew chapter 11, and Jesus says, beginning in verse 28, he says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in spirit, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." The word picture that Jesus gives us here is very clear when he's talking about a yoke, and the metaphor of a yoke brings us to an illustration of a farmer driving maybe cattle or driving oxen who are yoked together. And so the metaphor of Jesus' yoke is for the discipline of discipleship here. He's talking about his yoke is easy. His leadership of you is easy. He wants to lead you in a path of, well, here he says, he wants to lead you in a path of rest. For he's gentle and humble in heart, and in him we find rest for our souls. And in the verses prior to this verse, in this chapter 11, he is contrasting Pharisaical regulations, what the law says, to what his laws are. You know, Jesus wants to lead us in rest. The law wants to lead us in fitting within a certain parameter. The law wants to lead us in regimented routines and doing things just the right way and accomplishing everything that we can accomplish by our own power. But Jesus says, "Come to me, rest in me, relax in me, for my yoke is easy. I'm going to be gentle with you. I'm not going to crack the whip on you. My burden is light." And I just want to challenge you today to remember to come to Jesus and to rest in Jesus. The universe wasn't created in a day. It took 6 days for God to create everything that he wanted to create. And then on the seventh, he didn't get to doing something else. What did he do? But he rested. And so we need to be about the practice of resting. You know, I'm going to pick on my husband for a little bit, and I'm going to share a story that happens pretty regularly in our house when David gets sick. And I'm sure I'm not the only wife who's ever said this, but David gets a little bit stagnant when he gets sick. And that's probably, that's my nicest way of saying he lays down on the couch and he moans and sleeps and takes medicine. And all of us type A busy moms might say that he's wasting time and he's being unproductive and he's acting like a baby. But there's something to seriously be said for David's ability to lay down and to stop everything, to rest and recuperate. You know, David probably realizes, and I think we could all realize that he's going to make other people sick if he comes around. He's going to make other people miserable if he comes around and whines. He's also going to probably frustrate himself at a later date and time if he continues to work and if he continues to try and push through, because his work's not going to be as high a quality as it would be if he were feeling well, and he's probably going to have to go back and do some of it. And so the faster he gets better, the quicker he can jump back into real life. But he's not going to get better if he's continuing to push himself and drive himself. You know, David can honestly admit when he needs to lay down and rest and recuperate. David was sick a week ago, and he was out the entire day. I mean, just... I might consider him useless in the family way. He didn't help with the kids much. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. What I think the roles he might need to fulfill. However, the next day, he was completely better. And so sometimes I think we do ourselves a disservice when we are so weary and so worn out, and we don't take a break, and we try to cram everything in. And all the meanwhile, we need rest. And so today I want to encourage you, find a time every week to have a Sabbath. God took a Sabbath, and it's even one of our 10 commandments. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Take a time to rest. Take a time to sharpen your sword. Find out what refreshes you. You don't have to lay on the couch and sleep all day on your Sabbath day. Find out what refreshes you. I love being crafty. I love going junking. I love just taking a day and playing with the boys. Find out what refreshes you and do that. Let the laundry go. Let your dishes go. Let that email that you need to answer, let it go unanswered for a little bit. It's not gonna, your life is not gonna come crumbling down. And let me just share this with you. If your life is built so tediously around your ability to make it happen, then those things are going to have to be maintained by your own control and by your own effort. And so anything that you have to continue to strive and drive over is probably something that you need to reassess anyway, because the things that we maintain by our own effort, they're going to have to be perpetuated by our own effort as well. And that's not what God intends. Jesus says clearly, he says, come to me. Don't feel like you have to fulfill the regulations of the law. Come to me, rest, relax. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. And so we need to depend on Jesus for our strength. We need to take a Sabbath, and we need to reevaluate those things in our lives that we're having to drive, crack the whip on. Maybe we need to restructure those things in our lives. Maybe we need to train our kids to help out. There's something that every member of the family can contribute so that, Mom, you are not the centerpiece of the family. And I know that gives us a warm feeling to know that people need us, but we don't need to have our lives so structured around our control and around our component in the family that everything crumbles without us. We need to be better managers and we need to be smarter than that. And so my encouragement to you today is find a time to rest. Pick a Sabbath every week and make it happen. And structure your family needs a little differently so that everybody can contribute. And don't disdain rest. It's built in not so it frustrates us, so we lay around thinking, oh, I wish I could get up and do that thing that's really pressing. Don't disdain rest. Enjoy it, so that when you get up, you're more refreshed and ready to take on those tasks that are important. Be encouraged. That's my Monday word for Mom.